First and foremost, I'd like to thank God for blessing me, and of course a big shout out to my grandparents for helping me get to this point. Also, I'd like to thank the teachers and the staff here at Chapel Hill, as well as all my coaches and teammates for putting up with me over the past 2 years. And oh yeah, I can't forget the people back home in Iraq, man, y'all already know what it is with me. But yeah, after taking my time and really weighing out all my options, I've officially decided to attend. Man, hold on. It ain't no way we finna skip over the past 2 years of my life like ain't nothing happened. The last time we spoke, I was just getting to campus to start my junior year of high school. Now here I am on stage about to announce what college I'll be playing football at next year. Man, give me a second to rewind time so I can show you everything that happened that led to me being at this point. Pulling up to Chapel Hill, I really didn't know what to expect. This was my first time leaving the state of Illinois, and honestly, I think I started to have a panic attack. And to make things worse, my grandparents didn't even come inside. Nah, they dropped me off at the gates and got on. After roaming around for a little bit, I was finally able to find my dorm room, which honestly wasn't much bigger than the room I had back at home. I dropped my bags off and unpacked a little bit, but then I was told to report to the front office. That's where I was given my uniforms. Man, they gave me sweaters and ties and slacks and handkerchiefs. I mean, really all type of stuff. But later that night, I was looking at the schedule and I noticed we had to go to something called Divine Services. Man, bro, I knew this place was a Lutheran school or whatever, but I had no idea we were required to go to church. They had us in here with our heads bowed, praying, fellowshipping, worshiping. Man, I laid in bed that first night really questioning myself, like, did I make a mistake coming here? Then I quickly remembered my only other alternative was sitting in the Cook County jail until I turned 21, so yeah. The first month or so was miserable. I mean, I didn't know anybody or have any real friends, so all I did was go to class, get on the game, and go to sleep. I had gotten word that if you played sports or were involved in some type of club, you get more privileges around campus. With basketball tryouts coming up, I figured it'd be best if I hit the gym to tighten up on my game. But honestly, man, I wasn't too concerned because like I told y'all before, basketball had always come natural to me, so making a team should have been a piece of cake. Bro, that tryout was anything but a piece of cake. I mean, I started off pretty strong, knocking down a few quick shots. I was feeling good, but I immediately knew I couldn't compete with that level of competition. I had no clue then, but of course I found out afterwards that a few of the players we were playing against were ranked in the nation. I mean, Cade Harding, for example. That's the #1 high school player in all of basketball. I actually heard about Lil Buddy when I was back in Iraq, but actually playing against him, man, that hit different. It was a truly humbling experience because, like I told y'all, I mean, I never really trained for basketball. I was just naturally good, and honestly, we didn't have that type of talent back at home. So when I actually played somebody who had dedicated their whole life to the game, man, I found out quick that I wasn't on their level. Not only did I not make the team, but I left the gym with a bruised ego as well. After not being selected for the team, I had a lot of free time on my hands, so of course I went back to my old hustling ways. I was able to find a connect on Telegram and I bought a pack of stolen iPhones. I worked my magic to get the phones repaired and unlocked, and then I started making plays. I ran up a bag in a very short amount of time, but since I was only a junior, that meant I wasn't able to leave campus. So all I did was buy DoorDash every single day and buy clothes and shoes online. Every Friday is casual Friday, so that meant we could pretty much wear whatever we wanted to class. Man, listen, I'm telling you, I didn't wear the same pair of shoes twice. From Nike to Jordan to Versace to Dior, you name it, I had it. Things were going great. Well, that was until somehow 2 of the stolen phones got tracked back to the campus, and of course I ended up getting snitched on. I found myself back in trouble, but this time it was a little bit different than before.
You know, Darius, your grandfather really put his neck on the line to get you into this program, and if it wasn't for him, you wouldn't be here. So rather than kick you out, I'm willing to give you a second chance, but only under these circumstances.
The dean insisted that if I was going to stay enrolled at Chapel Hill, I had to see a therapist at least 3 times a month. With the loss of my mom and a few of the guys back home, he felt that sitting down and talking to someone could help. But we'll get into all that another time. Also, I had to enroll in an extracurricular activity. He felt like I had too much free time on my hands. Well, that's how I ended up here. The Chapel Hill Hawkeyes football team. The chess club was full. I for damn sure wasn't playing no soccer, and track is, well, track. Anyways, the team sucked when I joined, so I didn't even have to try out. I just had to show up. I started off the first game playing cornerback. I got a big hit that resulted in a fumble, but that was about it. See, I quickly realized why playing this position was so hard. I'd always get lost with all the movement and shuffling going on in the backfield and totally forget about the receiver running wide open up the sideline. That happened a few times in that game. For some reason, I just couldn't stay in front of my matchup. If you ask me, man, cornerback is the hardest position to play in football, but whatever. Anyways, the next game, coach moved me to slot receiver and I also got a new number. He saw how much speed I had, so he put me back to return punts. Man, let's just say that didn't work out too well either. My football career was off to a horrible start, and honestly, joining the track team didn't sound so bad. Well, that's when everything changed. Alright, so listen, coach, I've been thinking, and before you say no, at least hear me out. What if you put me in at running back? I mean, I got the speed and athleticism to make plays, and plus, not to mention, Matthew's gonna be out this week because of his herpes outbreak. I mean, we're 0-5 and we haven't won a single game all season. We really got nothing to lose at this point. The next 4 games of the season, I put on an absolute clinic. I honestly couldn't tell you where my skills came from, but I was virtually unstoppable. I approached playing running back like playing a game of tag. I just tried my best not to get touched. And on top of that, I wasn't afraid of any type of contact. As a matter of fact, man, I actually look forward to trying to run people over. We'd only win 2 games my junior year, but I honestly wasn't even worried about that. Yeah, man, I was just focused on having fun and making plays. But I will say though, my performance was a huge boost to the team. I mean, it seemed like the guys started to play with more confidence and passion, which was great because it gave us something to build off of for the next season. Being on a losing team sucks because obviously you don't win many games, but when you're the star on a losing team, yeah, it's a little bit different. You start to stand out and shine brighter than everybody else. Naturally, people start thinking like, if only they had a few more pieces to build around him, they could probably win a championship. Well, that's how it was for me at least. The stats I put up over those 4 games started to garner me attention from schools all across the country. And before I knew it, I was a 3-star recruit and ranked in the top 400 players in high school football. It seemed like as soon as I got my 3rd star, colleges from all over the country started sending me letters. But I quickly learned there were 2 different types of letters. Yeah, see, one letter is a school just letting you know you made it on their radar. I mean, it's pretty generic and they probably sent the same exact thing to thousands of other athletes. Meanwhile, the other letter is more personalized and it actually seemed like the coach could have wrote it himself. Well, I sat down and responded to all the schools that actually seemed genuinely interested in me, and I scheduled a few college visits. This was my first time on a plane, and I'd be lying to you if I told you I wasn't scared. I toured a few college campuses and checked out all their facilities. I honestly had never even been to a college, so I was getting blown away by the simplest things. But look, all the coaches kept telling me the same thing. They said I was too small to play on a college level, and I would need to add on more girth and size if I was gonna have any success. After about the 3rd time being called small and skinny, bro, I started to get pissed, but I ain't tripped. I just knew I had a lot more work to do. As soon as I got back to Chapel Hill, I started doing my research on how to put on a lot of weight fast. I spent the next 2.5-3 months dirty bulking. If you're not familiar with what dirty bulking is, it's basically you just eat whatever you want, whenever you want, as much as you want. Now, it's usually greasy junk food, but it helps you get really big really fast. After my bulk was done, I had a little bit of a stomach, from all the bad eating. But instead of doing the traditional cardio like jumping rope or running sprints, I lifted weights like crazy. By the time my senior season came around, I looked like a completely different player. At the start of my senior season, I was looking to pick up right where I left off at the end of my junior year, but there was a bit of a problem. See, I don't think my body was quite used to the new added weight I had put on from doing my dirty bulk. Although I had gotten rid of a lot of fat and added on a lot of muscle, it still took me a while to get adjusted. Now, don't get me wrong, I was still able to pull off a few big runs early on, but my agility and overall speed took a huge hit, which led to me suffering several tackles for loss during the game. Luckily, our season opener opponent wasn't very good, so we were still able to pull off the victory at home to start the season off with a 1-0 record. The start of the next game was much of the same. It seemed like I was just sluggish and couldn't really move how I wanted to. I mean, I saw the holes in the defense clear as day, but the new added weight just wouldn't allow me to make the necessary cuts to get upfield. I knew something had to change, so right after that game, I started doing 30-yard sprints and long distance running. Also, I decided to do a liquid diet, that way I can shred a bunch of weight very fast before the end of the season. But look, we were still able to leave with another victory at home, but I definitely wasn't proud of my performance over those first 2 games. Now the next game, we'd be on a road and I finally started to feel like myself again. I was able to cut back a draw play to the left-hand side of the field and break off a huge run for a touchdown. This couldn't have come at a better time, as there were several scouts in attendance watching the matchup between myself and the free safety on the opposing team. My speed and agility seemed to be making their way back, but my stamina was still missing in action. I knew that was something I'd have to build over time, so honestly I wasn't too concerned. Now, I can't remember exactly how many times I scored that game, but I know for sure I was in the end zone quite often. We were off to a 3-0 start, and even though the competition up until that point wasn't very good, the team's confidence was at an all-time high. After that performance, I had officially been given my 5th star, and I finally cracked the top 100 list of all players in the nation, which is crazy considering this was only my 2nd year playing football. Now, of course, after getting my 5th star and being ranked in the top 100, I finally started to get offers from those massive Power 5 schools, but listen man, I was just getting started. Skipping ahead towards the end of the season, we had lost 2 games, but things were still looking good for the playoffs. The entire school was behind us at this point, as we were the underdogs that came from out of nowhere. I mean, just the year before, we were the worst team in the conference that nobody cared about. My main focus at that point though was staying injury free and running up them numbers. I had finally adjusted to my new physique, and honestly, I was quite satisfied with the results I had been getting on the field. Now, the championship game took place at the University of North Carolina. This was my first time playing on a college field and the biggest crowd I had ever played in front of. My nerves was all over the place, as the team we were playing against was said to be the best in the conference. Now, I started off pretty slow as their defense seemed to be flying all over the place, but eventually I found my home in the end zone. It was in that game that I realized I could really be a factor on the next level. We went on to take home the victory, giving Chapel Hill their first football championship in over 20 years. I had a pretty solid game myself. I finished with over 150 yards on only 16 touches and a touchdown. First and foremost, I'd like to thank God for blessing me, and of course a big shout out to my grandparents for helping me get to this point. Also, I'd like to thank the teachers and the staff here at Chapel Hill, as well as all my coaches and teammates for putting up with me over the past 2 years. And oh yeah, I can't forget the people back home in Iraq, man, you already know what it is with me. But yeah, after taking my time and really weighing out all my options, I've officially decided to attend the University of Alabama. Roll Tide.